it might not be the Jetsons, but the future is here. No, it doesn't look like we thought it would, but there's also some really cool things that we didn't see coming. And I'm really excited to have with me today a futurist who has seen the future. She's been there. She's back. She's got some cool things in the area of augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and beyond to share with us today. And her name is Cathy Hackl.
Please keep clear of the doors. You are delaying the departure of this train.
Hi, Joel. Thanks for having me on this podcast and show.
Yeah, I really want to get into the future here because I am too a futurist, but I'm very specific in the areas I work in, and you have a much broader view, perspective. Your vision is, what is the word, peripheral, more than mine. You've worked with Magic Leap, you've worked with HTC Vive, and you're an author, you're a speaker, you've got your finger on the pulse of this stuff. And I actually, before we went live, I wanted to test, and the browser on the Oculus Quest does not work with this platform yet, because I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to go live and broadcast from there? But it only works on Chrome and Brave and Firefox right now. So we're not quite there yet. Anyway, is there anything else you could tell us about your background, just so people know your qualifications to talk about the future?
The future. Yeah. So I'm a tech and business futurist, and I'm looking at how emerging technology is going to impact business, communication, all sorts of things. I come from really a storytelling background. I started off as a journalist several years ago and transitioned into PR and marketing, then live video, and that's where I met you, Joel, many moons ago, and then went into VR. I always tell folks the story of how I got started in virtual reality. Like I said, I worked as a journalist. So back in 2004, I was working for CNN, and part of my job there was to look at all the raw footage that was coming in from the war in Iraq, right? So things that weren't very pleasant. I feel like I was a Facebook moderator before there were Facebook moderators. And, when you have that type of role, you kind of turn your humanity switch off just maybe a little bit to get by. And fast forward, it was 5 years ago, I went to a conference, put on an HTC Vive headset, and went into an experience called Confinement by The Guardian that puts you in a VR experience that's a solitary confinement cell that's pretty small. And within a couple of minutes, I felt completely claustrophobic. I took the headset off, and a few things went through my mind. I said, this is a very powerful storytelling tool, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And, now I've been working in the space 5 years as a VR evangelist, working on enterprise strategy, working with big brands. It's been quite a roller coaster, but a good one, a really good one. And not a VR roller coaster, a real one.
Right. Although VR ones are super fun. Yeah. I find myself putting my hands up and going, whoa, It's good stuff. So why don't we start with VR? Okay. It's been about 4 years since I purchased the Oculus Rift. They were right when they came out. Since that time, I sold the Rift, and now I have the Oculus Quest, which of course is wireless. Before I had it wired to my PC, so it really limited how far you could go. And I've got the little hand controllers here. Where are we in VR? What kind of adoption is there now? And I've got more follow-ups, but kind of lay that foundation for us.
Well, I think the Oculus Quest that you were showing folks, and I've got mine over there behind me, is really, I think, a very important moment in the history of VR hardware. Because it is, it's 6 degrees of freedom, which means that people can actually walk around and they have full natural motion. So, very critical. You're not tethered. Before, like you said, you had to have cables. You had to have a VR ready PC to be able to run VR on a computer. Now all you need is the headset. This headset is very powerful. They're going to bring hand tracking to it. So eventually you're not going to need the controls, which is truly amazing because it's going to be able to do so much. And they're already, if you look at Facebook, I think it was Zuckerberg that said last week, they've sold over $100 million worth of gaming on the Oculus Quest.
Are you
So
serious? That
yeah.
much?
Hmm.
Wow. Is it like all Beat Saber?
Well, Beat Saber and other games, Super Hot, and there's like a whole bunch of other like fun ones. Um, so yeah, I mean, they're, of course they paid, what was it, 2 billion or 3 billion for Oculus,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a long game. They're playing the long game, and if they start, it's starting, you're starting to see things kind of shift and change. As far as I understand it, Facebook's VR and AR department is actually the biggest department at Facebook. So that, I think that should signal to folks that are watching us on Facebook where the roadmap is, right? Where they're heading with the future of their platform.
It's not just that the Oculus that
No.
they offer either, right? Facebook has multiple. In fact, I'm going to do a share screen here and pull it up so people can see the device. Of course, those of you listening to the podcast, this is why you should catch me when I do my shows live, and you could always see them at facebook.com/JoelCom. And let me pull this up here and show. So this is, they've actually redone their site a little bit, but they've got multiple headsets now. And so you've got the Go, the Quest, and the Rift S. The Quest is the one that you and I have. I kind of feel like the Go was premature and didn't really deliver.
It did. I mean, it was a fun little thing to buy for $199. And if you see, like, all of them on the screen say out of stock, like they're sold out. The Quest has been a huge hit for them. I remember during Christmas, friends that had ordered their Quest and got a message saying it won't be delivered till February, and they would message me saying, can you talk to someone at Oculus, because I really want this under the tree for my kid. People that are not VR people, right? And I was like, yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. You just gotta wait till your Quest gets home. But it's been a really a good seller. I'll the only VR, I've got the Oculus Go, which I don't use, and I lost my control, so I don't use it. But the only VR headset I currently use is the Oculus Quest. I think it's a fantastic headset, very comfortable. It's going to get better. The reality is they're working on newer versions of the Quest. They're working on newer headsets. They're obviously working on some components of augmented reality. If you look at everything they're doing on Facebook as a platform, Instagram, if you look at Portal, which is one of their products, and what they're doing there with augmented reality, this is just a really exciting time for the shift that's happening in content.
I'm showing a Beat Saber right now for those who don't know what this is. My son, who's 28, this is how he gets his exercise. It's fast moving. He plays on the highest level, which I watch him and I get exhausted because it's like watching a ninja play this game.
Well, you can play Fruit Ninja as well. You can play Fruit Ninja.
Yeah.
There's even like a workout challenge with Super Hot, which is one of the other big titles. So yeah, it's this trend of working out in VR, which is fantastic and really interesting. So
I've long believed that VR would really find its stride when it could provide experiences that you can't get anywhere else, especially for realtors, right? To be able to show off homes and locations by, you put it on and you're practically there. You're walking through the space with the realtor that's got the camera. And for, travel, all right, because you can't go certain places, but I put on a headset and I can pretty much go anywhere in the world now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really wonderful device. Right now that we're all stuck at home, or most of us are stuck at home. Being able to escape in some way. I was on the board of a nonprofit a couple of years ago called Virtual Relief, and what they did is bring VR to homebound seniors. So at least for a couple minutes, even if it's 20 minutes, they could be in Hawaii on a beach, or they could be somewhere else other than home.
A virtual puppy,
powerful.
right? Bring them animals in virtual reality and put a stuffed animal in their lap so that they can pet it while, there's a
I don't know about that one. We would need the haptics for that to work. The actual, but we can definitely talk about virtual beings and where that's headed, because it's exciting
let's
stuff.
go there in a moment. I want to. Who else is a player in the VR space that we should be watching?
Oh my goodness! I mean, wow. Obviously, Microsoft has spent, a lot of money, both on the virtual reality and augmented reality side. They call it mixed reality. That's the term they use for kind of the products. But the HoloLens 2 is a fantastic headset. And I can actually say that now that I'm not working with Magic Leap. So
Can you show it? Do you have a device
I
handy?
don't have the HoloLens 2. I have a Magic Leap. This is, so let me show this one. This is Magic Leap, which is the headset. Hold on, there we go. The company I used to work with. So let me get closer. As you can see, it's transparent. These are pretty much like a pair of glasses. This is not virtual reality. It doesn't, it doesn't block out the real world.
Let me see the other side. What's from the lens side?
You pull the cable.
Okay. Yep. Totally. I could see your eyes through those. Yeah. So that is augmented reality.
The company calls it spatial computing, but for the purposes of this talk, let's use augmented reality as a term.
So let's define the two, VR and AR, so people know the difference.
So the easiest way that I've found to define it is virtual reality puts you in a different world, and it blocks out the real world. So normally you put on an Oculus Quest like the one you have, and you access this digitally created world, whether it is a 360 video or whether it is a computer generated environment. So it puts you in a different world. Augmented reality adds to your world. So it adds a digital overlay or a digital element to your reality. And then there's different ways, depending on what you're doing. Sometimes, let's say if you're using your phone and you're using Instagram or Snapchat, you're using a face filter or something, that's a level of augmented reality. But if you go further with, for example, the headset I showed you, you can actually interact with digital objects. So I always give this example. If I have a digital ball in my hand and I'm wearing the Magic Leap and I throw it against the wall, it'll bounce back because it'll respect the physics of the space. So, takes it to a totally different level.
But there's not, so where there's a consumer versions of VR, there's really not consumer level for AR glasses yet. I mean, there's Pokemon Go and these type of Minecraft, but not really. Not
really. I mean, you've got some headsets that are kind of a headset where you put your phone in and you can do some AR, but it's not necessarily that great. You've got several companies that are coming out with these glasses that plug into your phone, that are interesting. I don't think we're there yet with the consumer product. It's coming. It's definitely coming. And this is where I think the conversation gets really interesting. Have you been following Apple and kind of what they might be doing in that space?
Well, let's talk about it. And if there's a website I can pull up anything, I'll go there and show it. You just let me know.
Well, there was this leak, let's say last week, and you can even Google Apple glasses, and you'll have tons of articles pop up from last week. And they were talking about what Apple is going to come to market with something. We don't know when. There's certain ideas on when it's going to happen, whether it's 22 or 23, whether they're going to be called Apple glasses. There's all this stuff. And what I'm really interested in, and I think, is that people are so obsessed with the hardware. The conversations are usually around the hardware. And while I think Apple Glass is really interesting and pivotal for the industry, what people are missing here is that what Apple is working on there is a retail strategy. It's not a hardware first play. It's a retail strategy, because what they're going to do, what they're going to create. What they're going to create is basically with the new iPad that has a LiDAR scanner, and with an iPhone 12 that is potentially coming, that's going to have that scanner as well. You're going to be able to scan these special looking QR codes. And maybe you could Google that, because they look very different than a regular QR code. They're kind of round. They look weird. If you're used to QR codes, it look really strange. If you go Google like Apple QR codes, they'll come up. And basically what's going to happen with these QR codes is that you're going to be able to go to Starbucks. You're going to be able to pull up the menu with the code, order from there, pay directly with your Apple Pay, and make a touchless, frictionless purchase, which is going to be key. It's going to be key in this post-pandemic world. And this is what they're starting to do, is train the consumer using these QR codes train the consumer, and at the same time gain more insight in as to when the market is ready for them to launch the Apple glasses. Because people are going to start with the iPhone 12. They're going to be able to scan these special codes using the LiDAR scanner it's going to have. And LiDAR scanner, by the way, normally doesn't necessarily scan regular QR codes, but these QR codes are very different. And it's not a heavy lift for the hardware. So anyway, basically what I'm getting at is that what people are thinking is that Apple's doing a hardware first play when this is really a retail strategy.
I remember when Google Glass was a thing, and you had a pair, and Robert Scoble had a pair, and they looked super weird. And I ordered them, and right before they were to ship to me, I thought, it's $1,700, and I canceled them. And the very next week, they just continued them. So I was like, excellent timing. They just weren't quite ready for prime time. They were interesting. But cumbersome, and so I think if Apple comes out with something, it's going to be very user-friendly.
And they're going to prime the consumer. They're going to prime the market so that when they launch it, people are going to go like, oh man, I don't have to scan it with my phone anymore. I'm just going to be able to use my glasses. And they're being very smart. At least that's what I think they're doing. This is a retail strategy. It's not a hardware strategy.
When do you think we'll see this?
2022, 2023 is when they will potentially do the glasses. Okay. But what you're going to see launching with iPhone 12 is this QR code craziness that is going to kind of transform that retail strategy.
I did search for their new QR code, and all that came up was old QR. So it'll be interesting to see, what they're going to use. And it's interesting to me that they're going to do something different, because they always do, and usually it ends up being a pain for the rest of us, right? Yeah. It's like when they took away my little headphone port on here, and I have to use the dongle. I'm like, I hate that, and I won't buy a new MacBook because there's no ports on the damn thing. I still got one from 5 years ago that's a workhorse, and I'm almost thinking when it dies that I'm going to go to eBay or somewhere and find a new version of that same laptop, because I like having my ports on it.
Yeah. My husband always complains about that.
Do you agree, or do you feel like that they do what's best for us?
I'm such a big fan, to be honest, that I really like what they do. Let me show you a picture of what the codes look like.
Yes.
Because I found it here. Hold on, let me see if I can get close enough.
I see it's got an apple in the middle. So it's a traditional QR code still.
Yeah, but it's got the round ones. Let me text this to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me send this to you, and maybe you can show it.
Okay.
Because it's going to be different. It's going to be different. So let me text it to you. Yeah, I guess the lighting's not helping.
As long as my camera will still support regular QR codes to open up in a browser, I won't be too upset.
Yeah.
But if they say, oh, we can't detect those anymore, you're SOL, then it's going to be like, oh, please. Okay.
It's going to be interesting. And I mean, there's going to be a play. Yeah, see, they're different.
They are. They're psychedelic and round. And, so to me, that's all about style, right? Because the initial QR codes do what they did and they work. I don't know what these new ones are going to be able to do that the original ones don't, but they're definitely cooler looking.
And I don't know, people always talk about also like that they're going to resemble Steve Jobs' glasses. So the round look, I think, is also aligned to that, right? The round glasses and the round QR code. And, we'll see. I think it's a retail strategy. I don't know, but we can talk about weirder stuff if you want.
Yeah, let's get into so that's VR and AR. Let's get into artificial intelligence and everything that you're seeing, that falls into that bucket. Are the robots going to kill us all?
I don't think they're going to kill us. Actually, I think that we're going to coexist, and they're going to be our coworkers and sometimes our companions or our helpers. I have a friend called Susan Gildert. She's got a startup called Sanctuary AI, and she actually works on synthetic robot companions. Not companions, because they could be anything, synthetic robot, humanoid robots. And they're very interesting. Her focus is, for example, for a population like Japan, which is aging fast. eventually they're going to need more people to take care of the old people. So what she sees is these humanoid robots are eventually going to be able to do some of that. So very interesting take. She showed me one of her latest hands and the latest skin that she's developed, and it looks so realistic. Just really impressive. And I think people always get creeped out. They're like, oh no, I don't want a robot to replace me. And oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So this shows you just how lifelike
Mhm.
that they can really be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that one's actually kind of old. That's
Let's see. When is this
Vita.
article dated? This day article. Yeah, this is 2017.
Yeah, because that robot from Vina, what's her name? Vina. My friend's company is Sanctuary AI.
Okay.
And you'll
By the way, when
see.
I type synthetic robotic companions, look what comes up first.
Yep.
Artificial intelligence sex robot companions. Okay, so you want me to type what?
Sanctuary, like a sanctuary, common spelling, AI.
.com? All right.
I think it's .com. Maybe it's not .com because
Maybe it's
.io just
or
do sanctuary. Just do sanctuary then sanctuary AI. Google it, and it'll be the first hit.
Susan Gilbert.
There we go.
She is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's actually not the site. That's her site right there.
Yeah, but you'll probably see her.
There we go. Sanctuary.ai.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a lot
AI.
of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you're probably not going to see anything there. But if you go to news, you'll see all the pictures of the robots and everything. So she's doing really interesting work. I'm actually working on an article right now called Meet the Digital Embalmers. So, because I like weird stuff. I go there. I love it. I thrive on this stuff. So it's kind of introducing people that have these newer sorts of jobs of the future. So one of them, for example, is a friend of mine who's a digital legacy consultant. And she works in Hollywood, and she works with famous people to figure out their digital legacy. So when they die, who gets their Twitter, who gets their Facebook, who gets their YouTube, who gets their everything related to their digital lives. Who gets the right to bring them back as a hologram, who gets the rights to their DNA, right? If they want to be cloned or brought back in some way. So all that crazy stuff, she works with them to kind of set up those plans while they're alive. There's another one who's like the agent to the Hollywood deceased. So he owns the rights to a whole bunch of stars and starlets, and even athletes from the heyday, like James Dean type of stuff. And he's actually bringing James Dean back in a movie that I think comes out next year. So kind of he represents, I think it's over 400 celebrities that are already dead. So he has the rights to them. There's also people that are, there's a company called Backup Your Brain. So they're kind of looking to back up your brain with memories and all sorts of things you might want to keep if you die, and you eventually get to upload your brain to the cloud before that happens.
Mirror stuff, right?
Yeah, that's all happening now. That's all happening. The future is now.
So how do they I pulled up brainbackups.com, neuroimaging, a map of every connection in the human brain. So we think we're actually going to be able to scan the brain and dump the data that's like actually running around in the recesses of our mind.
We're not there yet, because that is set up, like that's just beyond the capacity of any computer at this point,
right,
to be able to store that kind of data. There's a series right now on Amazon Prime called Upload. I'm sure you've seen it.
I watched it. Yep.
Yes. We're nowhere close to that. That would take so much capacity to do something like that.
Well, and it's also it's funny. It's a silly take on it. It's not serious.
It's a sci-fi comedy.
Right. A somedy. Okay.
A comedy. I don't know.
A sci-comedy. I don't know. There's there's not a word for that. You see, we don't even have a word for that, mashup yet of sci-fi and comedy. So how are we going to scan people's brains?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Space Force is a sci-fi comedy, kind of. The new show, not the actual Space Force.
So, are we talking, in the lifetime of a millennial that we're going to actually see this?
I don't know about uploading your brain to the cloud per se. I think that's going to take a lot longer. but you're definitely going to see, when I'm old, I'm probably going to have to make those decisions as to who gets my digital, my digital legacy. Do I want to be brought back as a hologram? I'm probably going to have to make some decisions as well with my parents my parents are fairly young. But I always say if I could have hologram my grandma and have a hologram of her pretending to have coffee with me, I would bust it out every time. I would need some, some
Oh my
emotional
gosh.
support.
And she would totally be a hologramma.
A holograma. There you go. Yep. She would
Everybody
totally be a
needs a
holograma.
hologramma.
Holograma. Oh.
Well, and then you've got, your pets that have moved on, right?
Yep.
That's, I guess.
And when you sorry, it's just you're gonna get me. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm
No,
going
roll. What's happening up there?
You also have all these things called brain-machine interface, right?
Okay.
So these are devices. So you've got Elon Musk working on Neuralink, which is more of an implantable sort of thing. So it's more invasive, right?
Yeah.
But there are devices that are external. And I've got one here, for example. This is called the Neurosity. And let me see if I can get close. But it's got little sensors. You can see them. It's fairly simple. It kind of goes on like this. I'm gonna mess up my hair, but and basically what it's doing, it's gonna read your brain waves, read your intent. So with devices like this one or NextMind, Neurable, different ones that I've tried, you can change channels using your thoughts. You can dim lights using just your thoughts. You can do all kinds of interesting stuff. Scroll your iPad using your thoughts. So all these cool things that you're able to do this. So my point here with pets, I'm going to go back to pets, is that when you're actually able to, and there's companies already trying to work to read not so much the thoughts of the dog, but the intentions of the dog. So if you're able to eventually...
What are your intentions, Rover?
What are your intentions? Are you going to eat that scrap that fell? Of course, right? But if you're able to kind of record some of that and eventually bring your dog back or have those implanted into a clone of your pet or what have you, Rover's personality might be the same, or who knows. It's a really interesting place.
Well, I'll tell you, if they're going to put my brain in the cloud, fortunately, I'm not going to take up a lot of RAM. I mean, I don't need too much space, just maybe a gig maximum, because most of it's just the highlights, right? Everything else. Highlights. Just delete that stuff. I started watching a film last night and I fell asleep while I was watching it. It was with Robin Williams called The Final Cut. Have you seen that?
No, tell me about it.
I never heard of it before, but he's a cutter, and a cutter in this instance is somebody who takes all of the memories of somebody and puts together, for their memoriam, like here is your life. But he does it artistically, like the things he chooses to piece together. It looks like a thriller. I feel like before I fell asleep, something bad was about to happen, because it always does in these things. But I'd never heard of it before, and I'm like, this is really interesting. The job of this person is to take your tapes of your lifetime, basically, and edit together a narrative that you would show at your memoriam, at your funeral.
Yeah.
Things you would see, like I remember him showing somebody, there was this woman that was being abused by her husband, and he's like, he deleted that. Like, we're not going to show that.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because it brings up questions about ethics and what do you show, what don't you show. If we eventually get to that point, which we will, of implantable, of contact lenses or implants that record things, and so I mean, those conversations need to be had now, not later.
And that's a Black Mirror episode too. I don't remember the name of it, but basically you would be able to replay anything that happened in your life. And this guy got totally obsessed with it and saw things he didn't want to see again. And they're not making any Black Mirror right now because they feel like things in the world are already dark enough. And I'm like, no, bring it. Come on.
Bring it.
Show me more.
Well,
okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Please.
No, in that episode, there's also, I don't know if you remember that they could erase people. Like if there's someone they didn't want to see, or like they were blocked by law or whatever, they could erase people. There's something called
And then you
diminished
just
reality.
saw like the
Hmm.
silhouette of them, and when they talked, you would just hear,
Yeah, like
yeah,
Charlie Brown parents.
depersoned. So let's talk more about robots then, because
Mhm.
I actually had a Sony Aibo, the robotic dog. I paid like $2,500 for it. I got it a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, and it wasn't as smart or as intuitive as I wanted it to be. And I sold it for adoption. A family in California bought it. I took a few $100 hit on it, but I felt like this thing is dumber than a puppy. It's not learning fast enough. It's walking in circles. I'm not having any fun with this.
Mhm.
And I thought it was a really expensive, toy.
Yeah.
So
I
where
mean,
when, real AI in, robots, or animals that we will actually depend on daily.
I don't know about when. I don't know about when. I mean, I saw a few things at CES, like cushion, these cushion caps they're really strange that people could use for emotional support. I don't know where. I think we probably will have digital pets first before, like, intelligent digital pets before we
Mhm.
have the physical ones, just because robotics is a harder thing to solve. Especially if you really want it truly AI powered. I mean, a Roomba is great, but how much do I interact with my Roomba? But apparently Roombas have personalities. I read an article about that. I was like, really? Okay.
That was one of the things I noticed. I felt like
Mhm.
I don't have a Roomba. It's called a D-Bot. It's just a
Uh-huh.
knockoff vacuum. And I felt like it navigated my place better than the Ibo did. That
Hmm.
kept walking and, doing this stuff back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, it was novelty, and you'll see more of that. But when will it truly become useful? Not yet. I mean,
Mm.
not yet. We're gonna need kind of that digital overlay of the world so that the robot dog can actually navigate the world on its own and be able to identify. It's gonna have to scan your house to be able to know where doors are, where rooms are, to have kind of a better idea of where it can go, be able to interact with you in a totally different way. So yeah, we're definitely not there yet for sure.
Are you following the whole self-driving cars, industry, and then those that are moving into flying vehicles? Let's look into the crystal ball here.
Yeah,
When and what?
definitely. Have you ridden? I mean, you've probably been in a Tesla, so you've done autopilot.
Yeah,
So
well, I've been in one self-driving vehicle. I can't
mhm,
remember. I think it was a Tesla, and of course they had somebody in the driver's seat just in case. But it did navigate itself pretty much.
mhm,
He did when it was a tight space, and he took over, but it did pretty much drive itself.
mhm. Yeah. So before this pandemic hit, I had a chance, and I need to post the video. You just reminded me. Um, I got a chance to drive around in a self-driving bus or shuttle called Ollie, Olli, and it was really interesting. There's a pilot, there's a driver that's in there with you, but it drives autonomously through. It was through an area called National Harbor here in the DC area, which is really busy. It was during the holidays, so it was a really interesting test of these technologies. It was super safe. Did I feel unsafe at any point? I did not. I knew this thing was, driving itself, using radar. There you go. Perfect. Using different technologies, very safe. And when I was talking to the pilot, the driver, he told me he actually had to get a special license for autonomous vehicles. He
Hmm.
had to get a special permit to be a pilot or driver. And he was an engineer by background. Like, he had to know a lot of different things. So it was very interesting. I felt very safe. And, these things have to read the world. You know, the interesting thing here, when you think about AR and VR and kind of what's happening, is the concept of the metaverse, or the concept of this digital twin of our reality, right? So what that is doing is reading a digital twin of the reality around it. It's how it's interpreting the world, right? So that's how it's able to navigate. So what you'll see, and that's what I mean when you get that pet dog, he's gonna have to be able to do that. He's gonna have to be able to scan your house constantly and be able to understand physical spaces. So there's this big relationship between self-driving cars, self-driving, shuttles, and kind of the AR, VR world, and kind of that, the digital twin of our whole world that's being created, right? And then if you take it one step further with flying cars, eVTOLs, I don't know what they're called. There's a special word for them, eVTOLs. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But there's actually a part of the U.S. Army called Agility Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And Agility Prime had a kickoff conference about 2 weeks ago. And the whole conference, the whole week, was about flying cars. so if people,
that's all I see is this. Okay, I mean, is there a projection for when we would actually see pioneering flying cars, not mass adoption, but they're going to be very expensive. But when I will see, I'm on I'm on a high floor in my apartment building where I will see a car fly by in Denver. When will that happen?
I'm not sure when you'll see it, but they'll supposedly, last time I checked before the pandemic, I will say, I think 2022 was when Uber was going to start testing their flying taxis in Dallas.
Is there a website where I can actually see a flying car?
I have a video on LinkedIn. I'm not sure. I mean, you go to Agility Prime, they might have a picture there. If not, Kitty Hawk Industries from Sebastian Thrun, from Udacity, he's working on that as well. So
what comes up here is Air Force flying cars, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I do see Agility Prime. Have you actually seen in an expo? Have you seen a flying car?
I've seen them at CES. Yeah,
you have actually.
Yeah,
so I don't remember seeing that, but
Bell helicopters had autonomous flying. They didn't even call it a helicopter; they used a different word. So,
I bet if I go to YouTube and I just type flying car, I should be able to. Somebody's going to have.
Bell has it. If you Google like Bell CES flying car, it'll come up. I guarantee you, because it was not this year, but last year at CES, like people were just crazy about it. I have a video I did.
This is actually it from 4 months ago. I'm for those of you watching, I'm going to do a share screen here. We will see together exactly what we're talking about here. So this is the one. I'm just going to forward into the video a little bit.
Yeah.
Do they actually lift off in the hall?
No, they didn't. No, that would require too many permits.
Think that might hurt somebody.
Too many permits. Yeah. No. But the idea was to start testing it in 2022 in Dallas, as I understand. But I'm not sure what their timeline is anymore.
Wow. So we're gonna see this. This is gonna happen in our lifetime. We will be in flying cars, and I'm 56. Okay, but assuming lifespans are increasing and I'm reasonably good health, this should happen in the next 15 years commercially.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it'll be commercially available. It might not be as like mass market adoption necessarily.
Right.
At that point, it depends on, they're going to have to figure out so many things. If traffic sucks, I mean, imagine airspace. Right.
I just love that, you're driving on the road, but then like traffic is bad. You just up you go. And there's no roads, where we're going. We don't need roads, but you do. If there's a bunch of you on the skyway, you're going to need some sort of, otherwise it will be chaos. That's why we have air traffic control.
There's actually a building, I believe, in Miami that already is working on creating the parking lots for flying cars, because that is a whole other thing. Like, where do you park these things, right? So, but I can see it working well. I mean, if have you ever been to Sao Paulo, Brazil?
No.
Okay, crazy massive city. Over 20 million people live there.
Hmm.
In the rich in Sao Paulo travel by helicopter because traffic is just beyond crazy.
Hmm.
So I could see this being kind of the next solution of, instead of helicopter, you actually are using flying cars. So we'll see.
All right, let's go down one more rabbit hole before we
Mhm.
wrap up today. And this is dealer's choice, something that you've seen that has captured your attention that you want to share with us.
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you this, okay? Because I can't really share everything. Some of the things I've tried over the last 2 weeks from a social virtual reality experience are very promising and could be the future of social media.
Okay, now you've got my attention. I have a feeling we'll have another conversation offline that we
I
can.
think you would enjoy it. Maybe I can get you access, but
I would love that, because I've
oh,
seen, so, of course, because Facebook does own Oculus, Facebook Spaces was an interesting experiment, which it's not on the Quest, right? You can only do it on the Rift. And I don't know why they haven't brought it to the
Spaces
Quest.
is dead. They don't have Spaces anymore.
Oh, it's dead. They killed it. Okay.
Yeah, they killed it because they have a potentially a new platform. So
Okay. So hopefully we'll be seeing that on the Quest soon enough, since that's probably their most adopted piece of hardware, right?
possibly. So
Maybe. I don't know. And I've tried like AltSpace VR, on the Quest. And it's, I think, for all platforms, and it's interesting for being social. Can you give any hints to what does that mean, having a social experience?
you know how you go into Facebook groups and you like chat with people and you build a community
Right.
of engaged people around a topic? I think you're going to see that amplified in a totally different way. So, but that's as far as I can go.
Okay. Yes, I would like
Right,
access.
Bill,
Please introduce me. I want to play.
it's going to be really interesting, and I'm not talking about a specific platform. I'm just talking in general about
Right.
social, how this is socially going to translate into, and I always think it's really interesting because when I think of conferences like social media marketing world and the like, and I'm like, they need to start to address these things and think about things like this. I think it's great to do Instagram strategies and everything. That's fantastic. But if you need to also prepare all these small businesses and all these people on social media for this next part that's coming, because it's going to come fast.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it's just part of that 10-year strategy or more that all these companies have. So,
Well, speaking of what's coming, shall we go ahead and share of a project that you and I are working on?
let's do it.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce and present it, because I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, so guys, we're very pumped. Joel and I are gonna put our brains together and we are gonna take you guys into the future. We're actually gonna be doing something really cool. We're gonna be launching the Future Insiders podcast pretty soon. So very, very excited. What do you think, Joel? Are you excited too?
I'm very excited about it because I geek out on this stuff, and really, I'm a very specific futurist. You are, I don't want to say a generalist. You're just, more of what's happening. So I'm looking forward to learning from you. You are connected to so many people that are actually building the future, right? It's one thing to write about it and talk about it. It's another to actually be the person, with the hammer and nails that's creating it. And I can't wait to hear from them and in their expertise and their vision for what we are building as a society and a people.
Yeah, so it's, guys, we're gonna take you on a wild ride. We're gonna take you into the future, and woo, I know. And it's just gonna be interesting. So yeah, even if you think this is a little weird and stuff, don't worry. We're gonna make it relevant and we're gonna make it exciting. And overall, it's just gonna be fun.
So stay tuned to Cathy's website at cathyhackl.com, and of course my site at joel.live, and our social profiles, where we will be announcing the first episode of Future Insiders. And Cathy, thanks for coming on and helping us see a little bit of what's coming next today.
All right, thank you.
You're the best. Stick around for just a moment while I wrap things up right here. And thanks to all of you for watching and participating in this episode of Joel.live and the Joel.com show. I appreciate it. You have seen a bit of the future, and it tastes like chicken. Catch you guys next time. Do good stuff.